Formula Access. This week, I bring you James Roe. James Roe comes from Ireland. Oddly enough, Dublin, Ireland is our number one city from an audience analytic. And it surprises me, but we've had Kate Dalton from Aston Martin. She is from Dublin. And apparently, as James said, Formula Access is kind of a big deal over there. So I am greatly humbled and greatly honored to bring you James Roe, who is from Nice, which is nearby. I guess it is considered Dublin, maybe. But he just signed on as the Andretti Top Con NXT driver for 2023. You guys, drivers have a different experience. James is actually very, very different from some of the drivers that we've had on the show. And, you know, his grit, his determination would appear superficially like a motivational video. But you guys, this guy's so genuine and he believes the things that he's saying. And he's just grinded out an incredible adventure journey experience in motorsports. And he is an example of what I talk about all the time, of what drivers need to do to make it to the top. If you are a young, aspiring driver in any series, this is an episode that you must pay attention to. Take notes. Listen to what James is doing. These are the things that differentiate somebody that wants to be a professional racing driver and somebody that is a professional racing driver. You guys grab a cup of coffee, grab a piece of paper or an iPad or whatever you do today, take notes, enjoy. Here's an incredible story from the Andretti family. Formula Access, welcome. We bring the people of motorsports to your doorstep. Today we got another special guest. Today we bring another driver. These are my favorite guests that we ever have on the show because they take human performance and just discipline to an entirely different level. And for all of my business owners and business people that pay attention to this sport, you guys, these are the types of people that encourage us to drive forward and just kind of cut out the noise and keep pushing towards our dreams. So today we've got James Roe. He is from IndyCar, NXT, Top Con, Andretti Autosport. You guys, James, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is going to be fun. I'm excited to come on. We spoke highly of your podcast over the years. I mean, my buddies were listening to it. So to be on it is pretty cool.
I appreciate that. It started out heavily U.S. and is kind of becoming a global thing. And actually yesterday I had a 2-hour conversation with Mercedes, and they kind of want to get together and talk about providing us guests to kind of help us out. So
yeah, well, when people in Ireland are talking about it, you know, it's going the far side of the Atlantic. You're going the right direction.
Yeah. So to all those, James is from Ireland, and fun fact, Dublin, Ireland is the number one city on our podcast. We're from the States. Somehow we ended up being a big deal in Dublin. So
I won't complain about that.
Love it. So for all the people that are listening that are not from Ireland, who are you and what are you doing today? What are you doing this season?
So, yeah, as you said, James Roe, 24-year-old professional racing driver, driving the number 29 Top Gun Andretti Autosport car in Indy next this year. Based out of Indianapolis, obviously the home and the hub for IndyCar and Indy next here in North America. Andretti Autosport also based here. So it's home away from home at the moment. And yeah, we're just getting ready to kickstart our season. Next weekend, the season opener in the streets of St. Petersburg in Florida. And actually, I fly out tomorrow morning down to Miami, and we have our second test of the season at Homestead on Monday. So busy time of the year, and I guess is what it's all about, gearing up for the season, and we'll see what we got next week.
What are your This is not your first season in NXT, right?
So it's my first full season. Last year I did a partial season in Indy next, and then the remainder of the season was done over in Europe in a GT3 series. And first I suppose, if you would like to call it, my first big opportunity, to drive like a team such as Andretti Autosport and be part of that environment. I mean, they're so impressive on every front, in and out of the car. They're just so professional. So as a driver, when you put yourself in that environment and submerge yourself around, the Andretti mindset and how they operate, it soon becomes a pretty big deal on a number of fronts. So for me, I'm just extremely excited to be here, extremely excited to be with them, extremely fortunate, is a massive thing to be getting into one of their cars and racing on their behalf next weekend.
The Andrettis are a different breed. They kind of busted the mold after that group. I've actually spent some time with them. I've had Mario on the show before, and and I've gotten to spend some one-on-one time with a lot of the, I guess, team leaders, and they definitely operate at a different level.
Yeah, they just work. That's just the biggest thing I've noticed being with them. And the Andrettis are immigrants in North America. Coming from Italy over to North America to pursue a dream, and I myself I'm an immigrant. I moved over here at 18 years of age. Just after I finished high school in Ireland, had this goal and vision to come to America, moved here, spent the first 2 weeks sleeping in a truck at a team shop, living out of a suitcase on a workshop floor for this dream or this goal. And then you just work. But now, after being immersed in their environment since last November, every day I go to that shop or any hour of the day, they're just working. Everyone across the board. It's a really, really weird feeling initially, but they're just always on it. And I think that stems from, Michael and Mario. And I mean, where's Michael going to stop? He's involved in everything, and he's just so hungry. And I think that as a driver for their outfit, it's really, really inspiring to get the most out of yourself, because, they're putting everything in and giving everything they got.
What are your expectations for this season? First full season NXT.
Yeah, I mean, it's to win races. When you're with Andretti, that's the goal, win races. And I'm not thinking any bigger than that right now. Obviously, to win a championship, you have to win races and you have to have podiums. So I think right now it's just focused on winning races and performing. And then ultimately just coming away from every weekend and saying, yeah, I drove really well and I drove right. And we know what this industry is like. There's so many variables that, you never know what's around the corner, essentially. So for us, it's about driving to the best of my ability, working with the engineer to the best of my ability, let him work to the best of his ability to give me the best car. And we're confident, once we figure things out, albeit in Indy next this year, there's a new variable. It's a new tire to the championship. The past 6 years are on Cooper tires. Now all of a sudden we're dealing with the Firestone tire, and we have 2 test days on it before the season opener. So there's a massive learning curve there in the development process of the overall package. So work extremely hard together and be able to walk away with our heads held high saying, hey, we gave it absolutely everything. And I'm sure once we do that we'll be at the right end of the grid and hopefully on the top step of the podium a few times.
Did you start the road to Indy from the very beginning, from the USF 2000 and kind of?
No. So my career start has been my career as a whole is quite different than most. I didn't start motor racing until I was 15 years of age. Really? A lot of the guys that I'm racing against are competing since 4 or 5 years of age, as you see. So essentially a decade behind before I even sat inside a race car. And basically, as I call it, the 100-mile-an-hour version, grew up in a family motor repair shop in Ireland, been around cars since a very young age. My uncle Michael Roe had a professional career in the 80s and 90s over here in the States. He did IMSA and was works Nissan driver in 85, won the Can-Am Championship in 84, Japanese sports cars, Le Mans, some IndyCar stuff. So he had a professional career. I had the interest from the family business in relation to cars. Grew up, always wanted to get into it. As you know, the sport's like no other. To get involved in it, it's quite a bit of upfront cost. doing cars, engines, haulers, and so on and so forth. So basically, from a financial aspect, my dad and uncle turned around and said, hey, we don't really have it to get you involved in the game, but what you're going to have to do is the deal. You save up enough money to purchase the car. We have the resources here in the family repair shop to work and operate on the car. And then your uncle from his career has the knowledge and expertise to coach you and engineer the car. So it took me to last 15 years of age to get the money together, working summer jobs and winter jobs and stuff. And after school, and man, you name it, I'd done everything. I was scrapping cars, whatever it took. I was getting dollars together and purchased a Ginetta Junior, which is a class for 14 to 17-year-olds over in Europe. Purchased that car at 14 years of age, and we went competing when I was 15 at the local racetrack in Ireland. It's 2 miles from where I grew up. It's a track called Mondello Park, the only track in the whole country, by the way. Went out there, and our first race, we're on the podium, like, hey, we better take this a little more serious. So did 2 years of it with wins and lap records, and then went to the UK to compete in Formula Ford 1600 with Ralph Furman out of Van Diemen, or the original founder of Van Diemen, Formula Ford 1600s, because my uncle was the works Van Diemen driver back in the 70s and won the Formula Ford Festival for him in 78. So they had a strong relationship. And they got together and said, hey, let's develop a car together. We haven't made a Formula Ford in many years. So they, put their brains together and got to work and made a 1600 chassis. And I competed in it in 2016, and then actually went back to Ralph's old 99 chassis in 2017, which shows how far ahead of his time they were when they were built, and enjoyed a lot of success over there with wins and lap records again in 1600 in the UK. And then, as I said earlier in the conversation, I always had a goal and vision to come to North America, and just saw opportunity over here based off the system that's in place with the whole road to Indy and the scholarships and prize money and pole money and everything, and the opportunity just to get out and get after it seemed to be rewarded over here. So that's what I did. Moved over here in 2018, right after I finished high school. And as I said, spent the first 2 weeks sleeping out of a truck, and competed in F2000 that initial year over here. And fortunately had wins that year and some lap records again, which was good. And then following year, got a scholarship to go to Formula 3 here in North America from Ligier in North America, and was in it for 2 years. A tricky kind of a period. Had one win and many top fives, and then advanced another year. Went onto the road to Indy in 2021 with Turn 3 Motorsport out of Chicago, Irish team owned by Peter Dempsey. Irish driver. It was something we wanted to make happen, but we were a single car team with him as a team owner and engineer for me, going up against some big operations. And thankfully that year we had success with pole and win and many top fives over there, which was cool as a single car operation. And that was my first time on the IndyCar package. And now I suppose last year we gained a lot of experience in that opportunity that I had in the partial in the light season, and here we are with Andretti. So that's the quick blast.
And did you say Peter Dempsey? Is that his team?
Yeah.
The Mr. McHot or Steamy or whatever they call him?
I don't know. Mr. Freedom 100, I call him. He won the Freedom 100 in...
He's the actor, right?
No. You're thinking... So this is really funny, actually. There's Peter Dempsey, Irish racing car driver, team owner, ex-driver, Freedom 100 winner. And then you got Patrick Dempsey, who's the actor.
Okay.
But Patrick has a race team too in Europe. And every time I go through immigration, or every time I went through immigration coming into the US, driving for Peter's team, the immigration officer would obviously see on my visa that it's with Turn 3 Motorsport, and then they'd pull it up and they'd see Mr. Dempsey as the team owner. So they'd say, wait, is this the movie actor Mr. Dempsey's team? And every time I had to explain the whole time, no, I get this a lot. He's the team owner, but it's a different Dempsey. But it's funny you say that because, as I said, even immigration asked that question.
Yeah. When I get better at this, I'll actually know the answer to that ahead of time, and I won't sound like an idiot.
You're good.
So you did Formula 3
That's
here in
right.
the US.
That's right.
I got a question. You don't make any money until like IndyCar. How do you eat in between immigrating over here, living in a truck, and to today? How do you?
I'm very, very fortunate to have many great partners behind me. Obviously, Top Compositioning Systems being one of them, and they've been with me since 2019, and they're a huge partner and a huge player in my career. Not only for them and Ray O'Connor, their CEO, and Yuli Hermansky, their CMO. I wouldn't be where I am. And those guys really believed in me and my journey and see a lot of relevance to what they do in their business, on the paving side to that and what we do in motorsport and the importance of a smooth racetrack and so on and so forth. And then I've been, you take it back, there's many partners who've been on board in various different scales who've helped me, but ultimately it's just a massive work ethic that I travel like crazy. I work like a lot of hours to make it all happen. I have no manager, no representation, no agency. Everything you see, every partnership, every deal, even the Andretti contract, that was just between JF and I dealing with it and getting it done. To answer your question, how do I do it? I don't know the answer. I just think a lot of hard work, 95 flights last year, 25 transatlantic, the other, 70 here in North America. So that's just what it takes to get everything together to make it all work, I am
a huge adversity guy. I think that anyone that has the guts and the discipline to execute a dream on their own and figure it out, to me, is probably the highest performing people out there. Mm-hmm. I think too many people in the world want it all figured out before they ever get started. And I love the entrepreneur in me loves the warrior. And, you just kind of like, I want to do this. I'll figure it out.
Well, I think there comes a point, right, where you can sit around and wait for the perfect scenario, like to have all the funding for the program and for living and for this and for that, and to be with the right team and the right engineer and the right this and right that. But man, you're going to be in your 30s before that happens, right? So there comes a point where you got to, pull the trigger and get on with the show and just work, just get to work. That's basically the common denominator that I see. People ask, how do you put them together? It's just work. People joke that, I'm European, based in America with global partners, and you never know where I am because it's like I'm always on, and that's just what it takes, because you got to be just outworking everyone to make it happen if you want to do it by yourself.
Tell me, how does this conversation with JF go? You want to drive for him. You want, do you just walk up to him? Do you email him?
So it actually stems back to 2 years ago. I won the last race of the Indy Pro Championship in 2021 at Mid-Ohio. It was a rain-filled race. Mid-Ohio is extremely treacherous in the rain, super, super tricky. Won it by a big margin. I was in the lead by a big margin. I was up to 2 seconds a lap faster than opposition at times throughout the race in the rain. And then the safety car came out with 2 laps to go and ended up winning it again. But it was a pretty dominant race. Started 6th, drove to the front and drove away, which isn't easy to do around there. So after that race, the Monday morning, we had a dialogue where he said, hey, good job. Congrats on the Mid-Ohio win. Let's stay in contact, was kind of the gist of it. Then, of course, I went to Indy Lights last year, and it was an easy task. Startup team, a new group going against teams such as Andretti and HMD Autosport or Motorsport, who've been in the championship for a number of years and big programs. So we struggled a bit, I'll be honest. I mean, a top 6 was kind of a good day for us. And the reality for that is you're going against 6 or 7 HMD cars and 4 Andretti cars, which is, 10 or 11 cars before you even get there that you got to beat. So JF reached out. It was at Road America last year, June. We got in dialogue and we were just in contact, and basically he just said, hey, come to the shop, sit down. I just want to hear what's going on. And just said to me, hey, what's going on? Filming in your year. Basically, why aren't you winning? What's happening? And what's your goals? What's your ambitions? What you want to do. He just wanted some information to see what it was all about, and I suppose, and a chance to get to know me. And naturally, when you're sitting down with the president of Andretti Autosport, as a driver, you express your interest and your dream or your vision to drive for his team. That's just inevitable. So I told him I want to be with him, and I want to drive from the following year, and what do we need to do, or what do you need to see to make that happen. So he was interested at the time, and there's a message in this of perseverance, of how just like you got to keep banging on the door, because again, you're dealing with the president who's involved, has hands on every program, making decisions on a daily basis, from IndyCar to be involved in the F1 process, to the Indy Next program, to the Formula E program. Like, the guy is super, super busy. I'll never forget when I met with him, his phone must have rang 15 times in 20 minutes. Genuinely, I'm not even joking. And he just kept like silencing and silencing and silencing. He's like, man, this thing never stops. That's how busy he is. So he said, look, we're interested. Let's stay in touch. And that was kind of it. So we've stayed in dialogue. And then he got to September, and I'd been gone. I went over to Europe to do the sports car program. Our lights program had ended at that point. It ended 3 rounds early. And I had success over there with wins and podiums. And again, he was in touch and, hey, nice job that weekend. It looks like a strong end to the season. And of course, I was saying, well, hey, where's the lights program at? Is there a seat there or not? And I never got a no, nor did I ever get a yes. It was just kind of weighing up the options. And I'd say he was just kind of seeing, what I was doing, or what I was doing on track, engaging performance and stuff. And then ultimately, it was radio silence for probably a month. I just assumed the opportunity was gone, said, all right, well, that's it then. But I was in Ireland in September, and the IndyCar finale was on Laguna Seca. And I just had this thought. I said, man, I got to give him one more call. I got to just see where this is at. Just at least get a yes or a no. So I called him and said, hey, JF, where is it at? Are we game on here or not? I want to make this happen. And of course, again, I didn't get a yes or a no. He said, give me a few days. Let's see what happens. I'm all right. But I thought that was better than a no, because there was still a chance. We were starting to see a little light at the end of the tunnel. And then there was no word for 2 weeks. So I just said, all right, well, that's that. But again, remember how busy this guy is. He's just everywhere. And he called me then out of the blue and said, hey, we'll give you an evaluation test. Come test with us. If we like what we see, and the guys like you, they're big about teamwork in the Andretti camp. And we're happy with what's there, then yeah, we're game on. So came back over to the States in October, did a 2-day evaluation test, and thankfully, it went well. And a week later, here we are. Or sorry, not a week. Yeah, basically a week later. Yeah, he called me and said, yeah, let's go here. Let's do this. I'm happy with what I saw. And he actually honestly noticed the work ethic. That was one of the things that he mentioned in reason for the opportunity. He said, look, if you can get here to our door by yourself, we're pretty sure you're going to be all right in our camp.
So much of your role in your career, I guess early on and probably forever, is sales. Mm-hmm. I come from sales. I'm a sales guy. So, yeah. How many salespeople just, make one phone call. They're like, it sounds okay. We'll be in touch. Yeah. And then you just sit and wait and wait and wait. And the good salespeople follow up, check in, text, email, call, show up at the doorstep.
Well, the reality is, in our game, there's 4 seats in that team. There's 19 drivers on the grid next weekend in St. Pete. I can guarantee you every one of those 19 reach out to Andretti. Yep. Like when you're going to Indy Next, you call Andretti and see if they have something. So that's just who made the grid. Never mind all the guys that were looking at it and sounding out and seeing if there's an opportunity. So like they get emails every day of the week about their program. And that's the fact of the matter. Coming in, guys looking in. So you're going against every driver that wants one of those 4 seats. So to think that you're just going to call and land in it is dreamland, So yeah, I mean, that's kind of been my life. From how did I get here from sleeping in a truck to driving for Andretti? I mean, it's which is a lot of work. I mean, and just being persistent.
That will take you very far. I'm 43 years old, and I've gotten where I've gotten because I kind of don't take no for an answer. And when I see something I want, I give it.
Yeah, no, we see eye to eye on that one. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what fascinates me about drivers. I've really tried hard to focus on this show about the people and the team, but I always pull in a driver once a month just because you guys just have this like relentless like pit bull attitude. I don't know if you've ever heard that Teddy Roosevelt quote. I was actually showing it to my wife last night, but it's the man in the arena. And look it up sometime. I'll throw it on the show notes here. But like, whenever in doubt, whenever you're questioning anything, pull that quote out. I keep it on my phone. And anytime I'm kind of just like, you get a hater around there or somebody that kind of pops out at you, I just put that on, and it's kind of like Maximus and Gladiator. It's the man in the arena that's, covered in dust and marred in blood. And it was a really great speech, but I keep the quote.
That's very cool.
That's the life of a driver and an entrepreneur. So
yeah, well, let's make it happen, as they say.
So what's your origin story? So you have a family in motorsport. As a kid, you just grew up around cars. Like, where's your family into Formula One, IndyCar, GT? I mean,
yeah. Well, the love of motorsport and cars in my family has been there since back when my dad was a kid and my uncle was a kid. So, my grandfather we grew up in a small town. Sorry, take it back a step. Grew up in a small town in Ireland called Naas, County Kildare, 20 minutes from Dublin, the capital of Ireland. Grandfather had a veterinary practice. And this is the motorsport love, I suppose, or love for speed started from him. So this is back in the 60s and 70s, a huge big practice veterinary practice in our area. A lot of guys working for him. And back then you'd have to go from farm to farm working on all these animals, and obviously time is of the essence. So my grandfather used to have all the veterinary equipment stuff in the back of his car with the seats down on a piece of wood, and they'd be late for everywhere because they got to be ever super fast, but they could never knock anything over that was in the back because there was needles and medicine and bottles and glass bottles and everything back in the 60s and 70s around all these country roads in Ireland going to farms. So he'd drive extremely smooth everywhere, but extremely fast. And as my uncle then grew up and my dad, they were going with him, and they're like, wow, you're a really good driver. This is like awesome. Like, you're 100 miles an hour over on some back road in Ireland with these glass bottles behind you. None of them ever seem to break. So, you have an knack for feel and balance and controlling the car. So they said, hey, we should get involved in motor racing. So he went grass track racing, dirt track, grass track, whatever you call it over here. And he was super successful, and it was a VW, and he used to wear his welly boots and just keep his shirt and his tie on. He was just like a really eccentric guy and was winning races on dirt track stuff. So then my uncle got involved in it and my dad got involved in it, and that's then where it stemmed. The local track or the only track in Ireland is locally just 2 miles from us. Mondello Park, went out to it, and my uncle started winning races straight away in Formula Ford 1600. So then got factory drives and won a lot of stuff, and my dad had some involvement. But that's ultimately where the whole motorsport love stemmed from. Then my dad got into the automotive business. He set up the car repair shop and the engine shop. So this is where the whole, scene came from. And then, I'm born and my uncle had his career, and my dad's automotive business is pretty big. So you naturally grow up around this whole environment. Never met my grandfather, but heard all these stories. So the love of motorsport is just, I guess, in the blood, and you're just brought into it. It's kind of like why are all the Andrettis involved in motorsport, or involved in automotive? You just you're pulled into it. There's a lot of racing families are like that. You look at the Herdas, you look at, I don't know, in F1, any of the old guys like Schumacher, the family tends to be involved in it because it's one of those sports where you're so involved and so consumes absolutely everything you have, both from a family perspective and a business perspective, that when you're born, then you're brought into that. I guess it's kind of no path.
Every guest I've ever had on the show, no matter what they do, it's Dad. Dad got into motorsports, and sounds like Dad's dad. My dad's a horse vet. I'm going to send this to him.
That's cool.
He's a horse vet and drives around to farms all day. Like I
tell him not to be breaking any glass bottles, and he might have a career.
Yeah, he's got a big truck. I don't think he can be racing with that, but
he'll try.
I'm going to tell him there's a backup career for him.
So yeah, that's the start, man. That's how we got. That's where the interest started, and then as I told the story already, how we got involved, and the rest is history.
So you never karted?
Never drove a go-kart ever, ever. No, it's just been one of the. Yeah, it's kind of wild. Really is wild, and in some aspects, I think it's hurt me, and in other areas, maybe not so much, but. If you're to do it again, I think, if my son in years to come wants to get involved in motorsport, I think you'd certainly put him in a kart. Because the top level guys that come out of it, they're used to operating at such a high intensity level, and the competition is so tight, that I think it's the mindset thing more than anything that is great. The vehicle dynamics is very different, but racecraft and mindset that you get from high level karting on a world stage seems to be astronomical. That's not to say that it's to be all and end all. Obviously, I didn't do it, and I've bet guys who are world champions in go-karts. So it doesn't mean everything, but I think it's a great school for people to get involved in.
I think, to me, I always feel like adversity and abnormality is often it's a component of success. When I had Mario on the show, we were talking about him racing down the cobblestone streets of Italy in a box car, and trying to avoid people. And I think, doing that in dirt track and then getting into, more refined, structured series is probably a component of what helped him be successful. And I'd probably beg to say that's part of your recipe for success.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it also all boils back to just pure passion. We all have so much passion for this sport, so it never feels like work. Zach Brown always says, people say to him, well, how did you do this with McLaren? He's so busy, guys everywhere. But his answer the whole time is just passion. It's not work. He's McLaren, all the programs there, United Autosport, all the deals he's doing, flying here, flying there. He's just so much passion. And I really resonate with that, because if you don't have the passion for it and you're getting into this game and what you have to do, man, you'll be burned out after a week. That's a fact.
You ever reach out to Zach?
We speak a little bit on over text, like 3 weeks ago, dialogue back and forth a little bit about having a coffee this year. He's someone I look up to, honestly, because he's just he's a wheeler dealer, and I admire that, and you kind of sit back and look, and some of the partners he's brought into the sport, like huge big corporations. Remember last year, the Google deal, I reached out to him. I was like, man, that's awesome. That's just to see Google involved in motorsport. Everyone in this planet Googles every day of the week, and to see them stopped on one of his cars, that's pretty impressive. So stuff like that, I admire him. I think he's a grafter.
Yeah, so I work with a lot of young drivers, not anything, I don't know, not contractual. I just help advise people on kind of direction. I'm kind of a sounding board and
cool.
whatnot. And when I get that approach and people come up to me just for advisement or guidance, and that the first question I always ask them when they tell me they want to be a professional racing driver is, when's the last time you emailed Zach? And only 2, now 3, you have answered that they've done that. And, you're a perfect testament to that question when I get asked that, because nobody's calling you.
Yeah.
You are constantly having to reach out to others and kind of create that excitement.
Absolutely. No, you could just imagine his Michael's no different. Michael Andretti's no different. The two of them are actually friends, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But they have so much going on. They're on it so much. Like, I remember watching case in the last 3 weeks, or sorry, not 3 weeks, month, in relation to two announcements and one result. I text Michael in relation to them, and within 30 seconds, both like bam, response, bam, response. One was a GM deal, and the other one was in relation to the Formula E win. And then I was like thinking about it, I was like, man, this guy is so busy with so many programs, but yet they're always on, like, in the game. So if I have any excuse about not being in the game or not being on it to anyone in my program, I said I may forget it, because these are guys up here and they're like that. So Zach's no different, you know. In our dialogue, it was like boom, boom, boom. And then, you know, if you actually step back and process how efficient that guy was in a response with all that he has going on, my standard got to be there too, you know. So that's honestly the most that I read into it, and it's just as I said, it's inspiring. It fires you up, you know. If that's what they're like, this is what I got to be like.
Okay, so now you're with Andretti. Is there a glimmer of hope for their Formula One team so that you can move into that series, or is Indy? Are you all in Indy?
I mean, super license points always boils down to it, but that's the question mark there. For right now, it's full blown Indy, IndyCar, Indy 500. That's what I said. I would have a man of my word. You know, when I set a vision and a goal to where I'm getting to, and all the partners are on board, we're going there full steam ahead. But if something arises and there's opportunities down the road, of course, you never turn them down. So right now, as I said, focus on winning races first and foremost. Otherwise, we won't be going anywhere. And let's see what happens from there.
Okay, so coming up in the series, when did you know that this was it? Like, when in high school, I didn't know what I wanted for lunch in high school. When did you know, like, this is a dream I'm going to chase, and I'm just going to leave everything that I know, every piece of comfort, and go chase this dream?
I don't remember like a click moment, but James Roe in school was not the class A student. He wasn't the one that was handing his assignment in on time or showing up 5 minutes before class. I had different priorities, and just that academic world, albeit I got through it all and passed everything and was offered college, you know, courses and stuff in engineering. It just wasn't for me. That's just the bottom line, is that let's take it back to passion. I never felt passionate about it. So I was like a slog to do everything. I'd do it because I had to. And then I suppose racing the UK, I was still in school in Ireland. So the running joke that I went to school for a vacation, because I'd you know, race the weekend, come back, fly back Monday, or travel back on the boat or drive here and there. And I'd be in school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, gone again. And that was for like 2 years at the end of high school. So it got to the degree where the principal, or the year head of the whole school, basically said, hey, we know you're not going to be, you know, our top academic student of the year. So you seem to be pretty good at this career you're chasing. You know, you're getting some results. So in fairness to him, I really appreciate him for doing. His name was Pat O'Brien. He said, go and focus on it. You know, we think that, you know, you have everything for it. And he could have easily pulled me back, said, hey, you got to be in school all these days and stuff. And I went after it. And I suppose when I got that kind of release or blessing from school, that's always the hardest part when you're not homeschooled. And a lot of guys in our industry are. And the reason for that is what I'm talking about. Once I got that release, I suppose I said, all right, this is it. I'm all in. I'm not going to college. And we're going to make this one work. And as I said, I tell you, actually, the really, you know, oh boy moment was when I moved to America at 18 years of age after never being in this country, arriving in Chicago with 2 bags, nothing, no credit card, no phone, nowhere to rent, nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing. I think I had a couple of $100 on a debit card from Ireland, and going to the team in Wisconsin in February, freezing freaking cold, and sleeping there and just processing, wait, I'm here now. This is it. This is what I got. I have nothing. All my friends were in college in Ireland. Obviously, Snapchat is a thing in 2018. They're all out at college parties and having the time of their life. And here's me in a freaking truck in Wisconsin cold, trying to make it happen. That was the moment where I said, all right, time to saddle up here and make this thing work.
I imagine your dad put this discipline in. Like, where did this come from? Like the ability to detach like that and chase something. Like where was this fostered?
I often get asked that a lot, and I don't really know. I mean, my dad's side of family is a family business, and then my mom's side is also a family business. And as you know, in family businesses, there's no such thing as a 9 to 5. It's not like the corporate world where we get these days off, and these are hours, and this is our lunchtime every day, and this is that, and you're entitled to this and entitled to that. You're entitled to nothing in a family business, as you know. Just get out and make it work. So having that on both sides of the table. Very seldom do you see people sitting around or lying on the couch in my home place at home, because now my brother is also running the family business and he set up a different division of it. And, that's just kind of how we've been. My grandfather on both sides, again, were family business owners and operators and both very successful. So like actually through the generations, there's a major work ethic because it's a family business, right? So anything that I took, if a customer called at midnight, if it took getting up at 5 a.m. to go and meet someone, you just do it. So I'm growing up seeing that. And I suppose that's kind of just filtered in. And they didn't know everything about the American move. I kind of positioned, like you can imagine my mom, her youngest son, going to America, country he's never been to, doesn't even know anything about it, not even on vacation. I saw it on a few movies. And he comes like going over and I'm like, oh yeah, mom, it's great. It's good. I'm staying here. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's all good. She didn't know anything about the truck at the time. I didn't know anything about living out a suitcase on the workshop floor. And, I was telling her a few bits just to bluff it up a bit until, the dust settled and I could really tell her. And Dad didn't ask too many questions. He was just like, all right, when you're in the car, what's going on kind of aspect. So, I've been fortunate they supported me. They could have easily pulled me back, and said, wait, this is not right. But sometimes it takes that release.
My wife and I are both self-employed. I get that. I get that on a lot of levels. I think I was actually at a business meeting a couple of weeks ago, and one of the people I was meeting with asked me the question of like, what's your end goal? Like when you're dead, what do you want to be known for? Like, what's your goal? And I just, like, honestly, as a dad, I said, I want my kids to be passionate about something. And, kids can make $1 million a year playing video games or making TikToks.
Crazy.
Like,
crazy.
You find what you love and you do it, and you'll figure out how to make money doing that. And, and you won't be miserable and you won't want to blow your brains out at the office or freak out in traffic every day. And I think that's my goal, to instill that. And it sounds like your parents did the same thing.
Yeah. Once you like what you're doing, as I said, once you're passionate about it, you never work. I'm yet to work a day in my life. That's the God's honest truth. I am where I am through work, but it never felt like work. Or like, I'm doing stuff on Sundays. You wake up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. You're thinking about, like, last night I woke up. This is true. I've never said this anymore. I woke up at 3 a.m., went to the bathroom, and I'm thinking about the test on Monday. I'm thinking about a line or something like that. And then you go back to bed. So if you're so obsessed about your occupation, and it doesn't feel like work, I mean, isn't that the dream?
Yep. You have nailed it at a very young age.
Let's just make it work now. It's one thing dreaming it.
You'll be just fine. I know that already. How did you find these supporters? Like how did you pull this together? I think all young drivers struggle with this. Is like, how do I find business owners or people that can buy in? I mean, you're racing in series that are not televised. I mean, you are now, but before.
Yeah, so we got a big break actually in the last 2 weeks. So all Indy Next races are broadcast throughout the globe now. Obviously, we got the Peacock TV network here in North America streaming there. Sky UK, which broadcasts Sky Formula One over in Europe, is broadcasting all our races now, which is absolutely huge. Then you got ESPN South America, and then it spreads further afield throughout the globe. So think there's like, it reaches 132 countries, which is pretty impressive. So, how do you do it? I don't know, man. Just work. I feel like I keep saying it, but there's no magic formula to it. It's about being out there, showing your face. Big thing for me, no matter what I'm doing, is do what you said you're going to do, and then return on investment. And if you do what you set out in your initial conversation, and you also bring them return on investment and understand what return on investment is to that given partner, I mean, that's a win. They're back on board the following year. They're in for more. Word of mouth to their other counterparts is great. It's a validation for a program, and that's just basically it. Being at events, always do a lot of reading, see what's going on, speak to people. Always thinking of B2B deals. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's no set answer. And someone recently asked me, hey, can you put together a presentation or a document on this? I want to present it to a group of drivers. I said, sure, we can do it. I'm very fortunate. I do have a commercial team behind me as of the last 2 months, and they're assisting me with some things. But I said, there's no ABC. It's not like 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, and then you got dollars. Everything's different, and it's just a lot of work, man.
Is it generally like a future earnings partnership, or is it like paddock stuff? I mean, what?
No, it's partnership and sponsorship deals. No future earnings stuff at the moment. That's came up a few times, but we've panned it out in different ways. So yeah, no future earnings. It's all straight sponsorship for customer appreciation days, corporate days out, speaking engagements. Over the past 2 seasons, we've had like 400 and something guests at all our races throughout North America. That becomes a massive customer appreciation program, a massive opportunity for sales guys of these organizations to interact with their customers and their guests. Obviously, the branding side in front of all these eyeballs. Like, people forget there's 69 million avid IndyCar fans in North America. It's huge, absolutely huge. You go with a team like Andretti, it's owned by 75% of US households. You start linking brands with those numbers and those demographics, and soon enough, it becomes pretty powerful. Imagine going to an agency and saying, hey, we want to get in front of 75% of US households. What's it going to cost? You'll get a telephone number of a quote. So you can get involved in motorsport and do it through us, and we got you covered.
Seriously, for the most part, you're always stateside?
Yeah. I live here.
I'm going to get you to come speak at our company event. I'd
love to.
If you do this, like, your story is like right up our alley of just nose down, blinders on, grind it out work. Like,
yeah.
I love that. That email's coming. Just
well, I'll be there, man. That'll be fun. Grab a drink with you and have a laugh.
Oh, geez. Dublin. I would have never guessed when I started this show that Ireland would be like a big deal, but
there you go.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So in your career, what's been the hardest thing, hardest event, hardest circumstance, hardest whatever?
I actually think coming back from where I was last year in Indy Lights and what went on in a given program and how it all panned out to being with Andretti Autosport, you couldn't make it up. You just couldn't. You couldn't write it. That's basically it. If you told me last June, hey man, you're going to be in the Andretti car for St. Pete and everything's going to be awesome, I'd say, don't know what magic dust you have in your pocket, but I would have believed you. I'd say, all right, let's get it going here. But logically and with the pattern of what was going on in a sequence of events, I wouldn't have believed you. But the message in the bottle is that never, ever give up and just stay after it, because here we are now, it's a week out and things couldn't be better.
You would have never worked as hard as you did if you would have been told a year ago this would happen.
I probably would have. My mindset is that, if I got it, I'm like, all right, I got this opportunity now. How are we going to make it 10 times an opportunity? What can we do? That's just the way I'm wired. So it would have been very easy when I signed that contract and all the partners on board to sit back and be on the beach in St. Pete right now waiting for the season to come around. But no, we partnered in the gym this morning for 2 hours, partner meetings this morning, new partners coming on board. It just announced the deal as we're here on this podcast to see it's gone out, speaking to you. You just don't stop. Why would you stop? I got so much more to go, and we're only getting started.
What's been your biggest lesson in your career?
Never take no for an answer and just be persistent.
Yes.
Basically it. I mean, yeah.
Jeez. I'm going to make my kids listen to this. What's been your pinch me moment? At what point were you just like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm doing this. I mean, obviously in direct communication with all the major players in motorsport, but what?
I think signing the Andretti deal was pretty cool. Being at their shop, signing the contract, walking out. For either when JF called me to say I got the deal, I was in Ireland. It was in October. I was so sick. I was like the sickest I've ever been in my life. I had this flu and I was shivering and hot sweat and headaches and could hardly speak. And I didn't know if the deal was coming. I was just like so weak and so sick that I was never just like, I guess this is a sign, man. I'm on this downhill trend now. I was like, no, but there may be a chance. And the phone rang and he said to me, hey, yeah, let's get this show on the road, man. That was a moment where you hang up and you're like, wait, this is something I wanted so bad, chased so hard for so long, and it's now official. That was a pretty big pinch me moment. And even, calling my mom and dad or calling people around me or my partners, Top Gun executives who've been behind me since day one, or all my other partners who, jumped on, never forget who got you off the ground. When I was just here in America a year, they were behind me, calling them and saying, hey, we just signed or just got offered the Andretti deal. Everyone knows Andretti. That's a big moment, not only for me, but for them to know that their support has actually led to something. I thought was pretty cool. And just that validation was awesome. And then, signed the contract, of course, a week later at the shop in Indianapolis was cool. Walking out with that in your back pocket was nice.
Do you cry? Do you scream? Do you laugh? Like when this thing comes through, like what's your immediate reaction? Not cry because you're sad, but cry it like.
No, I'm just like, sweet. Now, when can I get to the shop and get to work? Honestly, that was it. Seriously, that was really what it was about. JF joked. He said, "Man, you're going to be a piece of furniture here in this shop because." We've done the deal, and I was like, well, when's Len, my engineer, Len Pascas, when's Len back in town? I want to sit down and I'm not one of those guys, even when I signed, my biggest partnership deal, I'm not one to go and pop a bottle of champagne and start celebrating. It's all right. Well, I told him we're going to do X, Y, Z, start calling people to make it happen. And that's kind of how I am, maybe it'll be, if I win the Indy 500 one day, yeah, you'll probably see James Roe crying, but right now it's just keep working.
I have no doubt that will happen.
Good stuff.
When you work hard enough, good things come.
Yeah.
What didn't you expect in your career? What surprised you?
What surprised me? I don't know. I think it surprised me how in the early days, so you start off, of course, like any sport, you start off for fun. You're at your local track with your dad and your uncle. It's great. You finish the track at 6 o'clock. You live 2 miles from it. You're out with your friends playing ball at 8. But then it comes to a point where the programs become so big and all that's in it becomes to a point where you're like, wow, this is really consuming me now. And I actually don't have time for much other stuff. That was probably the thing that surprised me. Now it's 100% normal. It's like breathing air. It's fine. But there comes a point where you flip it, and that recognition of how big this program is, how much people have invested in it, invested in you, how much time and energy you've put in, then you nearly go, well, I actually just owe it to myself now because I put this in and left all this behind. So that resignation standpoint and recognizing that is pretty impactful.
any young person out there, it's always my wind down question. What advice do you have for young people? Young people get enamored by things and they want to do it because it's cool to do it or because it looks neat. What advice do you have for, I don't know, 5-year-old, a 15-year-old that says, I want to be a race car driver when I grow up? Advice, expectations.
I think, where'd you even start in this game? But it's kind of just I don't know, just make sure you like it first and foremost. You have the passion for it. Really be sure that a lot of people see it and wow, man, that looks awesome. You're going here, you're going there, you're driving this track, that track, you're doing this deal, that deal. That's awesome. But you have no idea what it takes to get to that point of doing the deals or getting in the car. Before strapping yourself into the car is the last piece of the puzzle. Everything up until that is so time consuming and takes so much energy, and you need a lot of right people around you. But I think having the passion first and foremost is fantastic and very, very important. But secondly, I would just say, know you want to do it and really be sure of that. But then make sure you're all in. You got to be all in. I'm the type of person, when you're in, and give it absolutely everything you got, and just outwork your competition. That's basically it. When you're not working, your competition is. So you got to keep it going.
You should have a YouTube motivational channel.
I'll do it with you. Hunt in row.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Seriously, I want to honor your time, and you can tell JF, who keeps messaging you, to apologize for distracting me from.
That was that deal that went out as we're on it. So yeah, they're all pinging me.
So seriously, I appreciate you coming on the show. You are always welcome for any benchmarks that you have on the show. You are always welcome.
Thank you.
And anything that we can do as a show and an audience to help you, always feel free to reach out.
Likewise, my man. Likewise. Great to chat.
Yeah, no kidding.